Hello guys, and welcome back to another financially fluent video. I am your host, Jacqueline Mutuma. So I promised you guys I am going to do an episode on how you can use a Sacco loan and use it to farm. So Sacco loan with farming. By now we've already covered what SACCOs are. We have seen what they are, how you can be able to join one if you've not yet joined a SACCO, and how you can actually use a SACCO to build your wealth. Okay, and in this episode or in today's video, I'd like us to look at how you can be able to use a Sacco loan. Let's say, for example, 150 Kenyan shillings, 150,000 Kenyan shillings, and put it into farming. Let us look at some of the logistics, some of the math, and see if this actually adds up and if it is something that you can practice. All right. And the reason as to why I chose to do farming is because farming is a big venture, and I believe you can never go wrong with farming. I mean, even if all of us decide to be farmers, we'll still have market because all of us have to eat. So if farming is something that you're passionate about, if farming is something you would like to try, let us look at how you can be able to use a Sacco loan. If you're already in a Sacco and you have some savings with them, let us see how you can be able to turn 150,000 Sacco loan into a profit of roughly 500,000. So today, I'd like to show you how you can be able to farm smart using a Sacco loan. We will look at the cost, we will look at the crop selection, and we will look at how the math, the logistics and the math behind it. And let us see how people are actually building farming empires using Sacco loans. So let us dive into today's video. For today's video, I'd like us to take an example of a 1 acre piece of land, and we are going to start with tomato farming. So you'll have to forgive me because I do not have a whiteboard yet, but as usual, I wrote down a practical layout of how we can be able to approach this. This is it. What I'll encourage you to do is pause and then take a screenshot or maybe write down what I have just written. It's not much, and then we'll go through it together. But don't worry, very soon I'll have a whiteboard and we will be able to do this in a more civilized manner. As you have seen from the layout, this is just a give or take numbers, meaning the numbers might be lower or a little bit higher, but they do range around what I have just prepared. All right. So according to my layout, you have seen that I have divided 100,000 Kenyan shillings. And remember, the loan was 150,000. That is because I set aside 50,000 for emergencies or anything that might come up and you need extra cash. So when you're borrowing from a Sacco to do farming, do not go all in. Not unless you have something like an emergency fund set aside for your emergencies just in case they come up. But if you do not have that, leave aside some of the money to cater for the emergencies that usually come up. So from this example, I set aside 15,000 for leasing the land. Number two, I put aside 8,000 for hiring a tractor. Number three, I put aside 6,000 for the hybrid seedlings. Let me know in the comment section, as per now, how much are tomato hybrid seedlings going for per packet, okay? But in this example, I put aside 6,000. And then for the fertilizer, I put aside 15,000. For the chemicals that might be needed, I put aside 10,000. And then for labor, I put aside 20,000. Irrigation setup, 15,000. Transport plus harvesting. So this is transport after you have harvested, however means you're going to use to get your produce to the market. So transport plus harvesting, I put 6,000. And I put aside 5,000 for any miscellaneous activity that might come up. So it all amounted to 100,000 Kenyan shillings, okay? And remember, I said that we did put aside 50,000 for emergencies, or maybe if you feel like upscaling, you might be able to use the 50,000 that we put aside. So with 100,000, you have already planted, but you have to realize that this is open field farming, because if you decide to go the greenhouse way, it will obviously be more than 100,000. So when we're speaking about a budget of 100,000, this is open field farming, and I'd encourage you to start with open field farming if you are a first-time farmer, and then as you progress, as you get to learn more about farming, you can now move to greenhouse planting, other complex crops and styles. All right, that is after you have already understood all the needs, all the pros and cons of farming. But in this case, we are doing open field farming. And so with 100,000, we have already done 1 acre of tomato farming. All right. So let us move into the harvesting and profits. So out of 1 acre, let's say you get a yield of 10,000 to 15,000 kgs of tomatoes, and the market price of tomatoes per kg, let's have it at around 50 shillings per kg. So that means if you sell all of the 15,000 kgs, you're going to have 750,000 Kenyan shillings. And remember, you had taken a loan of 150,000 from the Sacco. And tomato farming usually goes for around, let's say, 6 months. Is it? Let me know in the comment section, how long does tomato farming take in Kenya? I believe it's about 6 months. Yeah, you had taken a loan of 150,000, and now you have a gross profit of 750,000. Out of the gross profit, let us remove the loan that you are supposed to pay back the Sacco. So that will be 750 minus 168,000. So the reason as to why I'm saying 168,000, so let's say, for example, this Sacco, you took a loan at 1% per month. In an year, that will be 12%. So you are actually paying back with 18,000 on top. Okay, so that is 168,000. That is the whole amount of money that you will pay back to the Sacco. If you take 750K minus 168K, you are left with 582,000. So let's say even the 80,000 goes to other things that you had not planned for, but they came up, or you never miss costs here and there. So even if you remove the 80,000 for other miscellaneous activities or projects or costs, you still have a 500,000 net profit out of farming using a Sacco loan. All right. Something else I'd like to bring to your attention is that you'll have to be paying the Sacco loan about 14,000 per month. So when you decide to venture into this, when you decide to do this, make sure you have a plan of where you're going to get the money to be paying the Sacco on a monthly basis. Because remember, your Sacco loan, you'll have to pay it on a monthly basis. So it might be a little bit tight before you can be able to actually harvest and get your profits, but that will be for around 6 to 9 months. But after that, you'll have your profits and you'll be able to clear your Sacco loan and still remain with your net profit. So if you decide to do this, you have to keep in mind that the Sacco loan needs to be paid on a monthly basis. All right. Other than tomatoes, there are some alternative crops that you can decide to farm. Those are onions, watermelon, strawberries, but strawberries through irrigation. You can also decide to do poultry farming, that is put layers, and then sell the eggs. You can also venture into dairy farming, and if your capital allows you, you can also do greenhouse tomato farming, because that will have a higher yield, meaning you'll have more profits. All right. As I said earlier, if you're just starting out, start with open field farming, and then you can gradually move to greenhouse farming as you continue to understand how farming is done. As you continue to have more market, then now you can venture into greenhouse farming that you need to consider if you decide to actually go with this idea. And number one is, you're supposed to only borrow for productive farming. Do not borrow the Sacco loan and then start engaging it into other things. If you have decided you are taking up this loan and you're taking it up for farming, let it remain that way. Borrow that loan only for productive farming. And then number two, do not overestimate your yields. All right, be conservative, especially if it is just the first time. Be conservative, do not overestimate the yields. Whatever you'll be able to harvest in the first round, be grateful for that. In the second and third rounds, the yields will be higher than the first time. All right. Point number three, make sure that you secure your market before you start planting, because you do not want to plant. The tomatoes have grown very well. You've had a good harvest, and then you don't have the market. Where will you take all those tomatoes? So make sure that you secure your market before you actually start planting. And even as the tomatoes continue to grow, keep on searching for the market. Search for a wide market. It's better if you have lots of customers rather than not having any customer at all. Even if you have a lot of customers, maybe customer A, you had promised them like 50 kgs of the tomatoes, and then because there are so many, you end up giving them like 45 kgs. It's better that way rather than not having enough clients to actually buy all the tomatoes that you're going to harvest. And then number four, this might seem very small, but track every shilling. Do not misuse even a shilling of that loan. Make sure you know where every shilling is going to. Allocate every shilling a purpose and something that it is supposed to do. And then number five, very important, make sure that you reinvest some of the profits. So the first time you have farmed using a Sacco loan, but the second time you should actually have your own capital, and you'll get that capital by reinvesting the profits that you have gotten from your first harvest. And point number six is for you to repeat the cycle and expand. As you continue to farm, you continue to understand the market, then now you can lease a bigger portion of land, you can try a variety of crops and farming styles. So I understand that farming is not easy money, but with Sacco support and smart planning, it can be your wealth building ladder. All right. But remember that you need to do smart planning and ensure that you track every shilling. Do not be tempted into using that loan, especially for consumption. If you take up a loan for farming, let it be for farming. If you take up a loan to improve your side hustle, maybe it is buying and reselling tumba clothes, let the money that you have borrowed for a particular purpose, let it stick to that purpose, okay? That is it for today, guys. So with that, I believe that I have already covered most of the things, if not everything, on Saccos here in Kenya. If there's something you feel that I have left out, kindly let me know in the comment section. I'll take a look at it and then I'll discuss it maybe in the next video or in a short or in a post. So make sure that you interact with the posts that I write as well, and also the YouTube shorts. I also put out very important information in the shorts, so do not be so much focused on the videos and neglect the shorts. The shorts are they are knowledge packed as well. In the next video, we will look at the next investment that you can be able to do here in Kenya. Until then, remember to subscribe to the channel if you have not. Share this with as many people as possible. Let us make sure that financial literacy is something that each and every Kenyan understands what it is and how they can be able to apply it in their lives to transform their lives and actually attain financial freedom. Remember to comment and like as well. Also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. So until next time, bye guys.